layouts for May I Scrap Lift You working in my travel album. This was a cross-country travel road trip that we took, my family, my brother's family, and my parents. And I'm also working today with Tuesday's inspiration. So that was from the third week in May. And that was actually the color swatch that I chose. That's what we did for the month of May. So Linda and Mel and Holly and myself, we picked a color theme or like a color palette. And yeah, we each picked one for our week. And so this was mine. And this beautiful collection from Pink Fresh just happens to pretty much match it perfectly. I was very excited when I was kind of rummaging through and trying to figure out if I was going to have to go through different collections and kind of pick and choose and pull little bits and pieces of the different colors and bring them all together. And I happened to come across this one in my little kind of travel summery road trippy kit that I keep and thought this is perfect. And it was even better because I have some 12 by 12 pages left, like the full 12 by 12 pages. I have the alphas, I have some acetate ephemera, and then just one of the general ephemera packs. So I felt like this was a sign that it was all meant to be. And so I'm going to get 3 different pages using this collection and a couple other things because it was on my desk, so I might as well keep using it up. And it's just a really fun summery collection. So yeah, so that all worked out. So this is for Tuesday's inspiration as well. And you can find the links for Linda, Holly, and Mel down below in my description. So please go and check them out. And then as well, you will find the links for the May I Scrap Lift You. So the playlist, the master playlist, as well as the links so you can go and check out Shala, Claudia, and Amanda Leckie's Instagram and YouTube channels. So you'll see the layouts that I chose as well as everything else, and then be able to see what other layouts people chose to scrap lift them. So yeah, so really fun. So I am skipping here in a way because I wanted to get the watercolors kind of down and drying before I moved on to actually putting layouts together. So I'm just going to follow this one, and I'm trying to reference the color palette as much as possible. I can never get that like coral color mixed, and I have shown on video so many times, coral is one of those colors that seems to always pop up that I want to use, and I never get it perfect. So mine was a bit more kind of orangey, but that's okay. It's all meant to kind of smush together. Then I dropped my cloth, and so I smushed some on the pages. So, we go with the flow, and it all dries and it all works out in the end. But that's what I was doing here. I just wanted to skip ahead and get some of that watercolor down so it's drying. And then I'm going to come back and do this gorgeous layout right there. Yeah, which I thought was super fun because I really like the idea of the circle picture. And I should have cut mine into circles, but I'm actually trying to fit as many pictures onto each page as possible just so that I can get them all into the album. And so I didn't think that this was going to work out as nicely if I cut all of these into circles. And I find that 2x3 size, it's not great for circles anyways. It always means that you're going to have to cut something out of the picture, or at least for me, it usually means that. And so I didn't cut them into circles. I'm going to use one whole 4x6. I'm not going to cut those into individual pictures at all. That's kind of they're representing the main circle, the main photo in the layout. And then I have that one extra little 2x3 that I'm going to put where where Shala has her like little cluster. And so that's, yeah. So generally I have the same design, but I'm just working with my pictures and not cutting the circle, which honestly was one of the main things that kind of drew me to the layout. So I might have to give this one a go. I definitely always keep my scrap lift layouts. I have a little album where I keep them because sometimes I feel like I put it together and I love what I've come up with, and sometimes I feel like it hasn't done the original layout the justice that I was hoping for it to give. And so I always plan to come back and maybe do a second attempt. But I end up actually really liking all three of these layouts. I thought it would be fun to have that circle, and I definitely think that working in a smaller page, you have to find those opportunities where you can add that extra little pop or something a bit different, add some movement or something like that. Because you don't have as much space to put embellishments and kind of throw all of those extras on. You have to take the opportunities when you can. And so cutting your pictures into a different shape is a great way to just add something a little bit different or unique that you probably aren't doing on every page. I know I certainly don't tend to cut my photos into shapes anymore. That used to be the big thing, right? Everybody did that. It's a very like creative memories type thing to cut out all of those shapes. I definitely don't do it anymore. So it would stand out in my album to see some of my photos cut that way. And yeah, so that kind of was one of the main reasons that I picked that particular layout. I also just like a nice, non-white background. I thought that looked really good too. And I love the simplicity of it. I think it works really well. It's designed really nicely, and there isn't a ton of embellishment or anything like that. Everything is just kind of chosen and put exactly where it needed to be to give the best impact. And so I like the whole way that it's been designed and how it looks. So I'm taking roughly that design, and then obviously here you can see I'm taking those strips that are running down the right hand side and across the bottom. I'm doing that same thing, and then kind of mindfully just keeping a little bit to add as my cluster over on that left hand side. I'm not adding any kind of fancy strips, or, I'm not going too overboard. I don't want there to be too much fuss on any of my pages, too many extra layers, too much extra dimension, because my album's already getting kind of chunky and I haven't even made it halfway through the trip yet. So I'm just trying to like get that basic idea in there, get some movement in there, a little bit of extra color, but I'm not overthinking anything. The other thing I'm adding here too, because when you aren't kind of adding any of those extras, you do want to add just that one or two bits of uniqueness. So if I'm not cutting my pictures into a circle, I figured I would go ahead and add a little bit of the string, because there is a little bit of that in the original layout, and I like the idea of that texture, and I did need that one little thing that kind of makes this one stand out and gives it that little bit of uniqueness. So I just grabbed some twine. I think this actually probably is from Creative Memories, but I just grabbed it. It's very neutral. It's like a white and beige twine, and I'm just pulling it apart and making these tiny little clusters. Nothing too big. I'm not going too crazy with these little nests. I don't want that bulk. I just wanted that little bit of texture and that little something different. I don't think your layout has to be, really kind of busy or complicated or have a lot of elements to it. You can have something really simple. You can have kind of a one layer layout. If you just, pick one little thing that kind of gives it that splash, or that makes your eye move around the page so that you can kind of follow the story of the page. So that little bit of twine, and then I'm adding these gold stars. And that is it. And that's directly onto the back of the layout in front of it. So not even adding an extra layer with any paper. And then now I will move on to this one. And so this one, again, I'm going to use one piece of paper, and you'll see in a second why I have it folded like that. For starters, it does let me get more photos onto the other side, but also it's part of the design of the other side of this page. So for this page, what I liked was the mixed media, that smushing all through the background. You guys know I love to do that, and I haven't been doing a ton of it in this album so far. So in my last video, I showed one of my little watercolor kind of mixed media pages, and I thought I would go ahead and do another one. Very little water. I'm not overdoing it. I don't really want it to soak through the page. Thankfully it didn't, but I was kind of paying attention to that, and I was mindful of how much water I was adding. If you wanted to, you could put gesso or something like that on the page so that it doesn't bleed through at all. If you wanted to, let it blend and smush and have more time when it's wet to be able to do all those things that watercolors do. But I just wanted to have something in that background. And again, I knew there's not a ton of space because I'm putting the full 4x6 right in the middle. And so you just want a little bit of that interest kind of poking out from behind. And I wanted to make sure I kind of got all of the colors from the collection. So I splattered a little bit, and I have just little smooshes of some yellow and the green and all of that. And most of it does get covered up, but you definitely see enough of it to know. And then you also can kind of see that that is the inspiration from the original layout as well. Now in that layout too, I wanted to make sure that I had that kind of feeling of the diagonal that is there. And so I'm using these frames to kind of give me that feeling of the layout going diagonally, even though the way that my picture sits with the size of this page, it takes up most of that page. And so you do lose that. If I had smaller photos, I could probably have replicated it a little bit better. But in this case, I just wanted to make sure that I kind of focused on that top left-hand corner and the bottom right-hand corner a little bit. So you get that diagonal feeling. Shala also used some circles in her two corners as sort of like the base for her clusters. And I felt like if I put something too solid, it was going to cover up even more of that. Well, there you can see it was going to cover up even more of the watercolors. So I decided to go for those frames, and then you can kind of peek through the frame and still see some of the watercolor. And then also I used those acetate flowers. So there's sort of a circular feel to them, but again, you can see through them. So yes, sort of intentional with how I was doing that to make sure that you got that general feeling that she gave without covering everything up, because it is a small page. You kind of have to fit a lot of things onto a smaller bit of real estate. Okay, so now I've got Claudia's done and Shala's done. So now we have Amanda. And what I liked about Amanda's, it looked to me like you could open up the sides. So it sort of has like a panel with photos and then a central kind of panel or column, and then another panel with photos. And so when I saw that, I thought I could do this into a little kind of interactive page. and have it flip out. And so that's sort of where my mind was going, and it definitely meant that I could get extra pictures in there if I wanted to. And so that's why I have those folds. So when it's closed, I feel like it has the same design as Amanda's, even though I'm not doing 3 pictures down like she has. It has essentially that same design. And I could have gone for even more photos, but I didn't have more pictures of this exact thing. We're at the Parliament buildings, and so if I had, I could have, crammed even more in there, but I just kind of liked the idea of taking that basic design and then making mine interactive. So it kind of looks like hers and it has the general design elements of hers, but mine flips out and now you have like a sneaky little inside too. So because I only had 4 pictures to go on these 2 panels, I decided to add a little bit of the acetate in there so that now it kind of fills that space up. It's not 3 pictures, but it kind of has 3 elements to it. And then where she has that castle in the center, I am going to put a larger photo in the center of the inside of my page. And so it's sort of the same and kind of has that feel. And mine isn't a castle, but it is the Parliament buildings. So I was even kind of thinking about that, how that's going to be in the middle, a big tower, instead of Cinderella's castle, or is it Sleeping Beauty's castle at Disney? Sleeping Beauty, right? So yes, instead of Sleeping Beauty's castle, I still have my tower kind of in that center. So when the 2 flaps are folded down, you do see that center tower from the Parliament buildings in Ottawa. So, one of those little things that I was kind of proud of myself for thinking of doing that, because I don't always think of those things, but it is in there. So yes, so then I just threw those extra pictures in there as well on the flaps. And I'm not really doing a ton of journaling right now, but I will be coming back after the album is done and kind of throwing in those extra bits of journaling where I need to. I will have open spaces, and so I'm kind of waiting until all of those pictures and everything are done before I go in, and I'll fill in empty spaces with any journaling I have. So sometimes you'll see me write a few little things, but for the most part, I'm just saving that until the end. And I do have a traveler's notebook with all my journaling, so I'm not worried about forgetting any of the details or anything like that. So I just wanted to throw a little cluster up here just because it needed to kind of have that space filled. And then that's it. Those are my 3 layouts for this week. No, for the next 3 days of May I Scrap Lift You. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please check out all of the links down below and subscribe if you haven't. And until next time, happy scrapping. Bye.